I had sex with him. He can never be in the military again. My husband was in an accident about 2 weeks ago. We have an update on the story. My parents are forcing me to give up my baby for adoption. If you guys missed that story back in December, I'll put it on the screen right here, but this is where we left off, okay? She was 32 weeks pregnant, due in 8 weeks. Let's not forget, she's only 17 years old. She and the father of the baby did get married in the courthouse. Her parents did not go to the wedding. They're still not supporting her. Her husband left for military tech school, and then she returned home to live with his parents. And that is where we left off. It's been a month since I last updated, and now I'm also about a month away from my due date. I'm still living with my in-laws. It feels really weird saying in-laws. My life feels unreal to me a lot of the time, to a point where sometimes I really have to focus hard on figuring out if this is reality or a dream sometimes. I can't imagine giving birth. I mean, I think about it all the time and I'm terrified of it, but part of me thinks, no, that's not really going to happen to me. I frequently have dreams about going into labor, but the dream never gets to the end. I never actually see the baby being born in my dreams. I hope that's not a bad sign of something that's going to happen. No matter how many times I dream about it, the dream never gets to that part. I also started the process to change my last name. It's really strange to think of having a new name now, especially given the whole circumstances and why we actually got married. Like, normally I'm assuming spouses want to have the same name, and it's some sort of happy, exciting thing to change your name to your husband's name. I'm really only doing it because I want to have the same last name as my son, and I don't want to have the same last name as my parents anymore. Speaking of my parents, I haven't really talked to them. It's not like they've reached out to me. My mom called my in-laws. She was drunk and accused them of stealing me away from her. Then she called me a slut. I forgot how much I disliked the parents in the first part of her story. That's funny, since my parents both signed the form giving me permission to get married. They wouldn't sign a form permitting me to get my GED, and they wouldn't allow me to simply live under the roof with my baby or just a little while. It didn't have to be this way. They wouldn't do anything to help me. I was never asking for them to raise my child for me. I haven't heard from my dad at all, not once. I keep thinking about contacting them, but to say what? Somehow I feel guilty for not reaching out to them. I feel like I need to maintain that relationship for some reason, and if the relationship becomes non-existent, that it'll be my fault. Right now, I just have no family. I mean, I know I technically do on paper, and my in-laws are nice and they're doing their best, but I don't know them. Plus, they're part of the reason I feel like I had to get married, to make them feel more comfortable helping me. I keep forgetting how strange that would be to just go live with two strangers, and the baby's father, which is their son, isn't even there. Like, you're just living with them as if you're their kid. I was overwhelmed with all the comments after my last post. Everyone thought I was being very ungrateful for everything my in-laws are doing. I didn't want them there when we got married. I can't even call it a wedding, really. I'm not the one that told them I didn't want them there. I felt awkward having anyone there because the whole thing was so weird. Having people watch me get married when it is a totally weird situation, and all because I had sex with their son and got pregnant. Yeah, it was just so embarrassing for me, but I never would have actually said to their faces that I didn't want them there / that they couldn't be there. I'm too nice to say that. I'm smart enough to know that that would hurt their feelings. I made the mistake of sharing my feelings with my now husband, and he told his family. He didn't mean harm by it, but I didn't really intend for him to tell his family. That's just awkward for everyone. I've apologized to them for what happened. They said they understand, and maybe one day we'll want to have a real ceremony. I don't know about that, but I wasn't going to argue. Some people seem to think I'm just acting like a brat 24/7 around his family, and I'm definitely not doing that. I'm very polite. I still feel like a guest in their home, and let's face it, I am a guest here. I still don't feel at home, but it's not their fault. They're trying. It's not like I'm not trying or intentionally acting ungrateful. I just can't relax or feel comfortable and treat this like my home. I am in polite guest mode at all times and don't really know how to act differently. I don't hide in my room all day. As awkward and as uncomfortable as it is for me, I do spend time with them and I talk with them. His mom is like above and beyond, and I worry what might happen when the baby gets here. Maybe I'm just not used to such a maternal, caring person, but it is a bit overwhelming for me. Let's not forget she's literally a teenager and experiencing a lot of pregnancy hormones as well. This whole situation would be a lot to handle even if you weren't pregnant. She makes me breakfast every day and packs me lunches, and like restaurant quality lunches, not normal school lunches. I don't necessarily want her making me breakfast every day, but I can't possibly figure out how to tell her without hurting her feelings. She's sort of a smother in a way, but with good intentions. I can easily see her wanting to help with the baby and showing me things and telling me the right way to do everything, and then me not knowing how to essentially tell her to back off and let me be the parent. I know I'm going to need her help. I just don't want her to do everything. I think she's the type that would do everything if I let it happen. My husband, she puts it in quotations, is at tech school right now and will be there for over a year. And that's if he doesn't get washed back for not performing up to standards or whatever they call it. He's allowed to have a cell phone on him in class in case anything happens, aka I go into labor. He's not allowed to leave to come home when the baby is born. Oh, so he can answer the call, but he can't come home? Oh, that would really suck. Knowing that your baby's being born, but also knowing that you can't be there for it. They'll authorize him to come home on a weekend. He has to have permission to leave the area, so he'll literally have a weekend to fly here, meet the baby, and go back. If some sort of bad emergency happens, that will be different. He also got permission to fly home for Thanksgiving, by which time the baby will probably be a few weeks old. That'll only be 3.5 days total, then a slightly longer stay for Christmas. His parents are already talking about all of us going to visit him once the baby is old enough to travel, but how old should a baby be before it's really safe to travel by plane? It's basically across the country, so it'll have to be by plane. At school, the teachers have actually been really nice to me. My teachers have always liked me, but now I think they feel sorry for me and pity me, and I don't like that feeling. Contrary to some of the comments on my previous post, I have not dropped out of school. I am so proud of you for that. That would be very hard. I'm finishing the semester at my regular school. I go to class like normal and also meet with a tutor to work ahead on some classes and assignments. The baby will be born before the semester is over though, so a few weeks after the baby is born, a tutor will actually be working with me to finish out my classes, and I'll take my exams. This is assuming the birth is normal and with no complications. I've completely changed my baby name choice. Good thing I didn't paint the name I had chosen on the wall or got anything with that name on it. I hope I don't completely change my mind on his name once he's actually here and it's on the birth certificate. The next update came on November 10th, 2024. My baby is here. I feel like this is the moment that we have all been waiting for if you have been invested in this story. And I've been worried about her. I really have. My son was born on November 3rd. I just haven't had the time to come here to post. We understand, girl. It was worse than I thought it would be. Oh no. And I already thought it was going to be very bad, but I think it was the actual moment of going into labor that I was most scared of. I just hated not knowing when it would happen or what it would be like. I also just didn't really want it to happen at school. So I was lucky that it happened on the weekend. At first, things seemed to be moving fast and the doctors and nurses said that it was progressing quickly for the first time. But then it's like I got stuck and was not dilating at all for several hours. I was stuck at 7 centimeters forever, and the doctor was seriously talking about me possibly needing a C-section if nothing changed for another 45 minutes. I was in tears, praying for something to happen so I wouldn't need a C-section. Yeah, this is my biggest fear, birth and everything that goes in it. So reading about it, I'm like, I'm sweating. Just brings back all my own fears. I've never had any surgery before or even needed stitches. Oh, yeah, that's a big That's a big one for your first time. Luckily, things started moving again, but slowly. So the last several hours of labor was horrendous because it took so long, but still better than an emergency C-section. He was no, that's impossible. He could not be 8 years old. He was 8 pounds, 8 ounces, and perfectly healthy. Which is what we all want to hear. He's just perfect in every way. I love him so much. I can't believe he's my baby and I'm his mom forever. It's so overwhelming, but in a good way. My brain just can't accept it yet. We're home now, and really it's just sorting through each day at that moment. How do you even think about anything else? All I'm doing is thinking about him 24/7, anticipating when he'll need to be fed or changed next, if something's wrong with him, if he's breathing. My brain literally can only think about him and nothing else. I see how people can forget to eat or not have time to shower. Yeah, I hear that all the time. When mom gets a shower in, it's like a miracle. I'm tired, but I think maybe I'm still sort of on high because I don't feel exhausted yet. I'm sure I'll feel that way very soon though. I can't really get my head around the fact that I gave birth. Like I actually did it. It's so weird not being pregnant anymore. Physically, I still feel pregnant. My mom was there during the birth, which was very awkward for me. Yeah, seeing as mom didn't even want you to keep the baby. I told her when I was in labor. I don't know why. I wanted to tell her, and then I did. And then I sort of wished that I hadn't. My mother-in-law was also there. It was very uncomfortable for me, but it was really just my mom who I wanted to go away. She was just being so critical of everything and everyone too. So I asked her to leave. Of course, she didn't like that. And I cried. I wanted to have my mom there, but not like that. And I felt bad that I hurt her feelings and she was upset about it. My parents did come back later to meet the baby. I just don't really understand. You wanted me to place him for adoption, and then you wouldn't do anything to support me in keeping him. Why are you pretending now like this is all so normal? My mom also doesn't like the name I picked out and says she doesn't want to call him that. Too bad. Yeah. Too bad. You already had your kids and picked out the names. Now it's my turn. Ugh, I'm annoyed for you. It's not even my baby. I did keep my baby's dad updated throughout labor. I just feel too weird calling him my husband. He had been allowed to keep his phone on in class just in case something happened. He's actually home now for a few days. They previously authorized him to come home this weekend. I was surprised at how emotional I was when he met our baby for the first time. I don't know, it was probably more about my son meeting his dad for the first time. My son. Well, at least it feels more natural than when I say my husband or my in-laws. I've had a few months to get used to those terms and they still feel completely foreign. But now I've noticed with him home, his mom wants to baby him and do everything for him, including taking care of the baby. I was actually glad when he wouldn't let her change a diaper because he said he needed to learn how to do it. I'm not really asking him to do a whole lot though. I figure he has like 3 days to relax, so I've still been the one getting up at night, but that's okay. So yeah, there was probably some other stuff I was going to share here, but I can't remember now. Sorry, don't worry. We have a lot more updates coming. Up to date. It'll get us all caught up. But first, we're hopping on hydration station and I have some green tea in my cup today. I do have my water. This is technically water. It still counts. Okay? Cheers. Next update. I've been really busy with the baby and returning to school. Wow. Oh, I didn't actually return to school physically. I was like, girl, that was fast. I finished the semester from home, but it was a lot of work. It was probably more actual homework than if I'd been going to regular class because they have to make up for me not being there in class activities and discussions. I basically feel like I did nothing other than take care of my son and schoolwork. When I wasn't doing one thing, I was doing the other. I had a few meltdowns, but I finished it. Being a mom is hard. It's really hard. I'm really tired and I even have a lot of help. I don't regret my decision at all though. Sometimes I feel overwhelmed and I think, why did I do this? Sometimes it feels like I can't do it and I'm sure I'm going to fail. Not if, but when. Oh, you're doing such a good job. Guys, when I think back to what I was doing at 17 years old, are you kidding me? Girl, you're doing great. But when I'm having a bad day and he stares right at my face, like he's looking right into my eyes, and we connect like that, when I'm holding him, I feel a lot of comfort and no regret about my decision. My baby is almost 8 weeks old. He weighs over 11 pounds last time he was weighed. He still wakes up every few hours during the night to be fed. He sleeps a little longer than he did as a brand new newborn, but doesn't seem to be as big of a change as what I read about his age. He's very healthy and on track and everything else growth-wise and developmentally. He's really interested in Christmas lights and sounds. My in-laws have several different Christmas decorations that move with lights and sounds, and he likes to watch those and will focus on them for a long time. A long time for him in baby time. He also focuses very strongly on the Christmas lights on the tree when you hold him up close to it, especially when they're set to sort of blink. Christmas was pretty hard for me. I used to love it. It just didn't really feel like Christmas this year since everything is different. I didn't do any of the same things with my family that we normally do each year. I guess when you take away your traditions, it just kind of feels empty. It was bittersweet, I guess. I was happy that it was my son's first Christmas and I wanted it to feel special, but I was also so sad at the same time. I was doing okay managing my feelings for the most part, but ended up crying several times on Christmas Day. My parents got me a few gifts, but I didn't see them on Christmas. They sent them to my in-laws' house. I talked to them twice on the phone. I spent Christmas with my new family, I guess. They bought me several gifts and tried to involve me in all of their traditions. I think it was hard for my mother-in-law having this be her first Christmas with one of her kids living at home. It's just my husband and his older brother. His older brother couldn't come home for Christmas this year. He's an officer in the military and is deployed somewhere right now. My husband is home right now. He will fly back to where he's stationed for training on New Year's Day. This is the longest he's been home since our son was born, and yes, I still feel weird calling him my husband, but people got annoyed when I used quotation marks, so I'm just saying. Things are almost more awkward when he's here. This is the third time he's been home since the baby was born, but the first 2 times were only for a few days. This time it's only been for about a week. As awkward as it is for me when it's just me here with his parents, we sort of have a routine, I guess. We have a dynamic now. He comes home and it changes. I'm not saying it changes for the worse, but it's just different. It's hard to explain. This sounds bad, but it's like, to me, he's not part of the family. I don't mean it to sound as bad as it does. It's like I know his parents better than I know him now. Well, yeah, you're living with them. Like, they're your entire routine now and your entire life. That's your home. And his mom also seems to forget we aren't like a normal couple who are in love with each other. I feel like we both pretend or do things to make her happy. I'm not explaining it very well. You might be surprised to hear he is good with the baby. He wants to hold him almost all of the time, to a point where I have to tell him to put him down sometimes. Baby doesn't sleep long if he falls asleep being held, unless you lay him down after a few minutes. I guess it's easy when you only have to do it in small doses though. That's not meant to be negative towards him, because I know what he's doing every day is hard work. Since he's been home this time, he's mentioned how he thinks we should move out to where he's at and not wait until he gets permanently stationed somewhere. He's going to be where he's at for training right now for over a year. This is hard for me to deal with since I'm not used to being able to make my own decisions. I'm scared to say no to him, but not because of anything he's done. It's not him that makes me feel that way. I'm just used to decisions being made for me, so part of me feels like I'm just supposed to say yes and go out there. I don't want to go out there though. I haven't even visited out there to see where he's at. He has no clue how hard dealing with the baby actually is, because he's only here a few days at a time, and he still has people sort of telling him what to do when. He offers to help, but he still has somebody, me or his mom, directing him as far as baby needs to eat or baby needs changed. I feel safe here with his parents. I don't think I'd feel safe out there because I feel like I was on my own. I'm not ready to have to be that much of an adult yet. Like having to think about food, grocery shopping, all the household stuff. I'm not maintaining a household like that at all in my current situation. I take care of my son. I'm not going out or partying or just sitting around watching TV while I let my mother-in-law do the work. But I'm also not having to worry about bills being paid, what we're going to eat for dinner, grocery shopping, and all that stuff. Yeah. take the help. I feel like having this helps, especially since you're so young and it's your first time. I think you take the help and appreciate and enjoy it while you can. Oh, wow, this came, oh, what a switch of topic. Okay, I had sex with him. Yesterday, he said, maybe later tonight we can have sex. I told him I didn't know. It's not that I didn't want to because I feel attracted to him, but I feel self-conscious about my body now, about whatever our relationship is, and with doing things like that when his parents are home. Later at night, he asked about it again. His mom has us sharing a room while he's home. In his defense, he asked me if I wanted him to sleep somewhere else. There are no more bedrooms anymore though, since I have his old bedroom and the other room is now a nursery. So he'd have to sleep on the couch in his own home, and I felt bad about that. So I said I was fine with him sleeping in the same room as me. It doesn't really bother me, but it's just the weirdness of our relationship that makes it uncomfortable. I can't imagine being married to someone I'm not with. Like, not together at all. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. He hasn't seen my body since before I gave birth. I told him I didn't want him to see me. I was thin with a flat stomach before. I was around 110 pounds before I got pregnant. I'm not too far away from that now, but I feel different in my own body. I know it's different now, and I'm still scared to even look further down. I still haven't looked down there in a mirror. He said I looked pretty thin to him, and he just kept asking to let him see me. Can't imagine that pressure either at that age. I mean, for any woman, when they give birth, your body changes, but at 17, that would probably be very overwhelming. Eventually, I gave in, even though I felt mortified. He said I really didn't look much different than before, other than some stretch marks, which he said was no big deal, but I'm sure he was just being nice. I still wouldn't let him see down there, though. It's still weird. I had sex with him multiple times before, and even when I was pregnant, and I wasn't so shy then, but it almost feels like none of that stuff ever happened between us, and this is a totally different person. I feel a lot more shy and nervous around him, and I wasn't that way with him before. He's like, we're married now, we're gonna live together, we have a kid, and have obviously had done this before. What's the big deal? I still would not let him look. I wouldn't even look at it, even though my doctor told me that it's healed. I feel like moms out there, I can't speak on that obviously, but I feel like a lot of moms can be in the comments and agreeing and validating her feelings for her. When things got to a certain point, I asked him if he had a rubber. He said no, and that he thought I was supposed to be on birth control now. I told him I was getting on birth control and that I was not getting pregnant again, but I haven't got on it yet because who am I going to be having sex with? Either way, I want to use birth control and rubbers just to be safe. Good girl. He said, you're seriously going to be on birth control and make me wear a rubber every time? I'm sorry, do you want to push out a baby? I told him I honestly didn't know that we'd be having sex together or who else he was going to be having sex with. He thought that was ridiculous and was like, we're married now. Who else are we supposed to be having sex with? He said I need to get over my insecure idea that he's out there sleeping with other girls because he is not a POS like that, in quotations. He basically admitted that even though we felt sorry for being forced into marriage and that we both know the real reason for it, he wouldn't have done it if he didn't care about me, and that he's trying to be committed and do the right thing beyond just a marriage on paper. Well, that's lovely. I let him touch me and he was gentle and respectful and told me things really feel the same as before. We did not do the deed though because we had no protection. He asked if it was okay if he at least bought some rubbers just in case so we didn't have any accidents. I said that that was okay. Then today we went out to eat with his family and it was the first time I was able to refer to him as my husband without feeling totally weirded out. I feel like maybe y'all just gotta spend some time together, which is hard when he doesn't live there. Later, we were in our room and it was very obvious where things were headed, but the baby was in there, sleeping, but still, and it felt too weird. Plus, I was worried his parents would hear. So we did the deed in the shower and I made him wear a rubber and do the little pull-it method. We kissed for a long time and it made me feel so good and happy. However, I have a pain in my stomach now, so I'm paranoid that I got hurt or my body really wasn't ready to do that. I'm also convinced his parents know, and that makes me feel extremely awkward. I feel like we shouldn't be doing it in their home, especially after what they've done for me. I think maybe it might seem disrespectful to them, and I don't want it to seem that way. I read the most recent report on all of my posts, and I just want to clarify that I'm not ungrateful to my mother-in-law or anyone in his family for what they're doing for me. I just don't know how to accept the help sometimes, and sometimes it makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't say the things I share here to her face. I would never do that. I don't ever want to hurt anyone's feelings. The problem is I'm so scared about hurting feelings or somehow making somebody mad at me and risking any tiny bit of security I have that I don't even know how to voice my feelings in a normal way. I can only see it going badly and can't imagine a way to voice my feelings without somebody getting upset, so I just keep them to myself or share them here. Reddit has really become her diary at this point, and we're all just her friends reading it. I also didn't get pregnant from a one-night stand. We weren't dating, but we knew each other for over a year, and it wasn't the first time that we were intimate with each other. I'm not considering adoption. Sorry to the people who are still hoping for that. It's not happening. Leave her alone. I don't think I can just easily get a certificate for something and get a super high-paying job. Everyone is misinterpreting that. I want to get certified for something, like a trade of some sort that pays well. There are trades that pay well. Some people with certain certifications can make more money than other people with certain college degrees. My parents feel that any college degree is better than a trade of any sort, and that pursuing a trade is embarrassing. What? They were already mad at me about that before I got pregnant. We argued about it. Apparently your parents don't like anything you do. So I simply expressed that I wanted to look into trades to see if there was anything that I was interested in and would be good at that might make an okay living, and that I felt that going to college to get any degree when you have no idea what you wanted to do was stupid. Yeah, that's a logical way of thinking. Why waste time on something you might not want to do? And money. And money. They blew up over that and told me I'd be on my own if I choose to do that. You'll notice that's a theme with my parents. I'm all on my own if I don't do exactly what they want me to do. It's not like I was talking about becoming an exotic dancer. It's not like I was even on drugs, skipping school, or being a completely worthless, crappy human being. I simply wanted to consider trades as well as traditional four-year college. I got sent to my room, yelled at, told I'd be on my own, and then a bunch of doors slamming. I've already decided that I'm not going to be that way with my son. Instead of trying to control him like a puppet, I will focus on raising him so that he will make good decisions that are his own decisions. I want him to be his own person with his own likes and dislikes and feel free to express them without always feeling scared that he'll be yelled at by simply voicing his feelings. I also won't force him to go to college. I would rather focus on helping him explore and experience things in life so that he might be able to find a field that he's interested in, and then support him in achieving that, whether it involves a trade school, bachelor's, or all the way up to a PhD. It's more important to me that he is happy and finds something he wants to do than to force him into a tiny mold of my own creation. Sorry this was super long, but I haven't posted an update since my son was born, so I guess I had more to say than I realized. It is all good. She's still so mature. She's just as mature, if not more, than the first story, and she blew me away in the first part. The next update came this year, January 2nd, 2025. I'm so sad, and I don't know what to do about it. Oh no. I miss my family, I'm hurt by my parents, and I seem to realize more each day the different things my parents did that good parents wouldn't do, but I still miss them. I can't believe they didn't even ask about seeing me on Christmas. They just dropped off gifts for me, didn't even give them to me in person. I talked to my mom on the phone twice on Christmas. She said she was going to call me today, but never did. My dad only texts me, pretty short texts. He said Happy New Year, and when I tried to initiate a conversation, nothing. My husband went back to the base where he's at for his training. Sorry, I still can't say husband with a straight face. How am I 17 years old with a husband and my parents signed off on this? I would never let my son get married at 17. Today I'm having one of those days that I have sometimes where I can't believe certain aspects of my life. Like they just don't seem to be true, and I just have to repeat it over and over to myself. The more I repeat it, the more unreal it seems. I'm married is probably the biggest one that I struggle with. It's very weird. I even have a military ID now. We had to go to the base closest to where we live when he was home for Christmas to get it. I can't believe there's a marriage certificate with my name on it. It seriously feels like an out-of-body experience or something. He flew back there early this morning. I've been crying over it since yesterday. I had so much anxiety yesterday that I was nauseous and shivering. I looked it up and anxiety chills are a thing. I never experienced that before. I just had this horrible feeling that something terrible was going to happen. Other than the sad moments I had, everything was so great over the Christmas break. It was like I just wanted it to go on like that forever, minus the whole actual Christmas day itself and missing my family part. We spent a lot of time together, playing games, watching movies, going out to eat, going to local Christmas events and stuff. I actually enjoyed it and didn't feel like an awkward fourth wheel most of the time. It felt really nice. It reminded me of my family back when my parents weren't ashamed of me. We used to do those things together too. It wasn't even that bad when I had to meet all of his extended family at a Christmas party that his parents had, which I was dreading, of course. He won't be able to come home again until next Christmas, most likely. Damn. We plan to fly out and visit him sometime this year, probably in the spring. But that means he might only see our son 2 times in person for the whole year. I'm supposed to go back to regular school next week. My mother-in-law arranged for my aunt to take care of my son during the day. She watches 2 other family kids and she's like 60 and total grandma vibes at her house. I mean, I think he'd be safe there. I just don't really know her, but I wouldn't know anyone watching him at a daycare either. I don't really have a choice. I'm the one who stubbornly wanted to finish normal school just to prove to somebody, not sure who I'm trying to prove anything to, that I could. Maybe you're trying to prove it to yourself. Okay, the dentist is calling me. Fuck off, my teeth are fine. But I feel like now we've gotten so far with this plan of me going back to school. I have a desire to go back there now. My friends there aren't really my friends anymore. I'm just going to be that married girl with the baby. I don't know if I can go back there. The thought of that just makes me want to be absorbed into the wall where nobody can see me. The nice messages people have sent me on here have helped. Honestly, sometimes I just reread the really nice messages when I need to pick myself up. I will put the link to this in the comments probably in case you guys want to go and leave her some lovely comments and advice. The next update is January 31st, 2025. We're getting close to being all caught up here. My husband was in an accident about 2 weeks ago. It had nothing to do with his military training. The training he's doing right now is all in a classroom anyway, so not really the type of stuff that would cause injuries. He was a passenger in a car being driven by his friend. A drunk driver hit them. His friend was not drinking and passed a breathalyzer test. The drunk guy got a non-serious gash on his head. The friend who was driving only got bruises from his seatbelt, but mentally is supposedly very shaken up. My husband has a head injury that was so bad he had to be rushed into emergency surgery to have part of his skull removed to relieve the pressure. He's since been life flighted to a different hospital that has a specialized neurological ICU department. Girl, as if life was not overwhelming enough for you right now. He was conscious and breathing on his own, but out of it when they brought him to the hospital. They did a brain scan and he had swelling and his brain basically hit both sides of his skull. After surgery, he was placed in a medically induced coma for 48 hours to allow his brain to rest. I guess I'm totally stupid and didn't realize when you're in a medically induced coma, you also have to be on a ventilator and all that stuff. He had a seizure when they tried to slowly bring him out of the coma, so he was put back under, but when it was time to take him out of it again, he didn't have another seizure. So he is totally out of the medically induced coma now and he can breathe on his own fine. He's still heavily sedated and sleeps a lot of the time. He has extreme head pain, so that's why he's still very sedated and on pain medications. He is still in the neurological ICU. The good news is that he responds to all stimuli, can sort of talk, and so far his brain monitoring all shows very positive results. They are constantly monitoring his brain and doing tests, and his baseline test was really good considering the situation, and it continues to show improvement. The current doctors say that the first doctors not hesitating to immediately open up his skull probably prevented the most extreme brain damage or death. Had they waited, got second opinions or done more tests before cutting him open, it probably would have been a worse outcome. But he's still not his normal self. He will have impairments, we just don't know what or how bad. He cannot express himself verbally like normal. His eye coordination is also affected right now. That's probably not the right term, but visually and eye focus wise, he's having issues. Motor skills are not 100%. He doesn't remember the accident at all, but he's able to recognize people, knows what year it is, things like that. The doctors are recommending that he be sent to a rehab facility after he's discharged from the hospital, but the full extent of how long and what he'll need help with aren't even known yet. He's not ready to leave the hospital. He is still in the ICU, but they are planning to step him down out of the ICU soon. If everything goes well, he will eventually be able to have part of his skull put back in, but that won't be anytime soon, like many weeks or possible months. I mean, I'm glad he's okay. I don't wish this upon anybody, but I'm glad he's at least alive. I haven't seen him in person. I mean, I've seen videos of him, but I'm not there. His parents flew out to be with him immediately, and they're still there. I'm here by myself with the baby, and that's also sort of terrifying because I've never been alone with him for so long. I've been going to school like normal this whole time too. I didn't tell anyone at school about what was going on because I didn't want people to feel sorry for me, and it's just sort of weird to say, by the way, my child's father is in a medically induced coma right now. Last week was really difficult and I almost didn't make it through. I didn't get a big assignment done for one of my classes and I finally had a breakdown and told my one teacher about everything. Of course, they had to bring in the school counselor and it turned into this big thing that I didn't really want to happen. I went to school this week, but I just couldn't do it today. I didn't have it in me. Another sip because this story's literally forever. I couldn't wait for tomorrow to be off, so I just didn't go in today. It's hard for me because my entire life growing up, I was never allowed to take off school. I mean, I had to be super sick for my parents to even consider letting me stay home for a day, and I was feeling guilty about it. So I feel like I'm in trouble for taking off just one day. I was basically just crying and unable to function this morning. So yeah, this whole plan of a military career and retiring from the military is gone. Even if he makes a full recovery, he can never be in the military again with these injuries. And I know it sounds really selfish, but I'm also worried about what this means for me and my son. I'm scared because the whole thing was like we had a little stability and security since he at least had a job and benefits. I'm obviously not going to even bring any of that up to his parents right now. I get that the only thing they're concerned about right now is him, and that is how it should be. I don't know what to do. I feel bad that I'm here. It's not like I said I didn't want to go out there to be with him. There was never really a discussion about it. It was just like they were going, not even sure how bad it was at the time, and I'd stay here so I wouldn't miss school. It's not like school is like a job where you can just take an extended leave for a family emergency. Still, I feel guilty about being here. At the same time, I also don't really want to go out there to be with him. That sounds so bad, it just scares me. I've never seen anyone in a hospital connected to all the machines. I was truly shocked when his parents sent me a photo. I wasn't prepared for that. They keep me updated, but I question how updated I really am. I think they don't always share the details, probably in an effort not to worry me or scare me. I've had to look up several of the things they've told me because they don't go into detail. I feel like I'm being treated like their child, like they decided mom and dad would go out there and leave me, the kid, at home because this is too much for me. They also are keeping information from me and trying to sugarcoat it when they talk to me. But what can I do about it? I do basically feel like I'm their kid. I mean, that's pretty much the dynamic, so it's hard for me to speak up still. I know he is way more affected by this than I am, but I feel like now my whole life is up in the air again. I feel like I'm in limbo. I worried about things like, what if he actually falls in love with somebody else and divorces me unexpectedly before I'm ready to support myself? Those are the things I worried about coming along and disturbing my plans, not something like this. Well, if we thought she needed advice before, I don't even know what to say anymore. It's just one thing after another for this poor girl. She hasn't even graduated high school. And look at everything she's gone through. If you can offer any advice, you know where I will be. I will be down in the comments with you. Stay classy out there. Stay sassy. And I'll see you